The Texas Chainsaw Massacre took my baby away from me. Texas Chainsaw Massacre took my baby away from me. Oh, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Look what your brother did to that dog!
Tonight, we are finally going to jump in and take a look at Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The long-awaited, the fifth head on the Mount Rushmore of horror. You know, you got Leatherface, you got Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and even Pinhead. Shout out to Tall Man. But tonight we're gonna take a look at the original Chainsaw Massacre. Texas, that is. I think it was when Chainsaw Massacre 3 was coming out. There were trailers on the TV. We didn't call them trailers back then. We called them commercials. I think it came out when I was in like the 4th grade. That's how I remember it anyway. And it was scary as shit. And I remember like asked my mom about it, and I swear, she told me it was based on a true story. I was like, what? There was a guy that ran around and shot people up with his chainsaw, and I had this weird, like, combination of, like, I want to cover my eyes, and I don't want it to be true, / I need to go see it. It was on my list. I think 4th grade was, like, my biggest year of movies I wanted to see that I didn't get to see. I could just like find out about. Leatherface has that storytelling. I'm sorry, I'm ill prepared. It's got that weird, that lore behind it, where it's that weird marketing trick where it's like, hey, it's based on a true story. But the reality is like everything somebody writes is like loosely based on a true story. Okay, that's just how it works. Like anything I've ever written, I don't just completely, like, nobody's imagination is so great that they can just completely make something up. It's either they're either ripping the idea off from their own true life, or they're combining shit they've heard from stories that were read to them or that they read when they were growing up. It's like George Lucas isn't making Star Wars movies based on actual events, but they're inspired. He's combining a lot of fairy tales and sci-fi into one little package and making his own thing. And that's what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is kind of like, it's the original Blair Witch Project. It's because they have Dan Larroquette does the intro. This should have been made as a found footage film. But Dan Larroquette, because he went on, he did Night Court. He's a famous actor. Actually, he has a niece that lives nearby. I ran into her at a bar. She's like, yeah, my uncle's John Larroquette. I was like, really? Like, I believe you, because I don't think anybody would make that lie up. Like, if you're gonna lie about who your uncle is, you would be like, yeah, my uncle is Steve Martin. It's based on a true story. Innocent. It's inspired by a true story. I don't know. Like, whenever I write stuff, when I write fiction, it's not like I'm doing an autobiography. It's like you kind of expand on things that happen in your actual life, to where it's like, well, it was actually a boring day at the park, but what if on the way home? It's like, I don't know, you pull from your past. So technically, everything is inspired by actual events, no matter how mundane, no matter how boring. It's like, oh, this is inspired by a boring walk home. The point is, there's no Leatherface. There's not a real person. There's a guy, Ed Gein. He was a serial killer, and he supposedly, I don't know if he was known as a cannibal or not, but he did skin people. He made lamps and shit. But you know, Silence of the Lambs, you know, that was based on the Ed Gein character, Leatherface. Psycho. There's a few other ones that I can't think of. These can't all be true stories because they would all be different versions of the same story, and they're all so different. But I don't know. I mean, that's the appeal, though. It's like something crazy happened, and blah blah blah. It's a made up thing where it's like, well, it doesn't sound very interesting. It's like, but that really happened. It happened over there. I think as humans, I think most of us have that curiosity, that because there's kind of that like folklore, to where you're like, it's like, oh, this happened. Like if you go over there on a rainy night on Tuesday, there's a ghost that pops up. You're like, well, I don't really believe in ghosts and blah blah blah, but I want to go check that out. I want to go see what that's all about. It's a weird thing that most of us have in us, where it's like, and it's like, it's not paranormal, but it's just it's a leaning toward the abnormal, where it's like, you know, getting away from the mundane. Because most of us, people who are interesting, I think, lean toward like weird shit, just because life is boring. I mean, that's my intro to my website was, I like horror movies because life is boring. Like nothing really happens, and you hear about stuff here and there. And it's like, on a given day, you know, on Monday, I do this. Tuesday, I do this. You know, by Thursday, not a lot different happened. And we're conditioned, and we need that normalcy though, because if you just did crazy shit every day, then it's like it'd be hard. That'd be hard to maintain. And that's why the movies are fun, where it's like, oh, these guys are going to go do something and it's going to turn out bad. These guys are fucked. The remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think they're on their way to like a Skinner concert. It's like the remake tried to make it more 70s than it was. Because in this one, because I was looking for it, it's like, what were they doing? I was kind of weird, because they're in a van, they're on a road trip, but they're just kind of like, they're driving through Texas, and they go, I think it was I know that they were going to the house, like Sally and Franklin, their brother and sister. I know that like their grandfather's house, like he died, and they stopped by the graveyard, and so they're going up there to visit, but there's not like, but it's like, why? Because it's not clear like when he died. It's not clear like, are we inheriting this? They're just kind of going. So they're like, why are you guys going there? And they're going on a road trip. And upon further like looking into it, it's like, it's like, this movie came out in 1974. 1973 was the oil crisis. Like, real dick move to like do a road trip. That was an oil crisis. We should take a road trip to a house that we're not inheriting, but just to look at, just to whatever. And they get to a gas station. Well, first, I'm jumping ahead. First they're driving, and they go by a slaughterhouse. And it's like, oh, that's, you know, like Sally and Franklin, especially Franklin. Franklin has this weird, like, fascination with slaughterhouses, where he's like, and Franklin's also, he's an invalid. But he kind of acts like, you know, if it wasn't for this goddamn wheelchair, I'd be killing cows every day. I'd work in the slaughterhouse. But at the same time, he's like the poser kid who, like, I don't know, grew up as his dad or something. Because he's always like, slaughterhouses. It's like, he knows all this stuff about it, and he preaches it to everybody. But then they see a hitchhiker, and they're all like, yeah, let's pick up the hitchhiker. And the first thing Franklin says is like, no, he's probably going to smell like a slaughterhouse. And they're like, let's go pick him up. So they pick him up, and the hitchhiker's weird. Like, he's weird looking, and he's just a weird dude. And he gets in and just starts doing weird shit, and they're just like, all right, and he like starts doing some weird voodoo shit, where he takes a picture of Franklin and like cuts him with a knife and all that. And they finally they kick him out of the van, and then he like kicks at it and stuff, and they leave him. And it wasn't until this time watching it where I was like, because I know Uber's pretty new. Based on the talk, like the hitchhiker sounded like he was getting off work. he sees a van, and he's like, hey. He gets picked up, but it's like, who hitchhikes home from work? It's like I understand. It's like, is that what you do? You just walk, and then you stick. Maybe you could have. I don't know. I wasn't alive yet. What do I know? It's like he's just like, I'll hitchhike home, and then whatever. And so they keep driving. They're freaked out because he freaked them out. They got worried. But I was like, why? I mean, obviously, don't pick up hitchhikers. So they go and find the old house. And they're checking it out. Yeah, that's right. Because they started out, they found the old house. And the old house, everybody's cool. Franklin's pissed. Franklin is, like, he wasn't really invited. I think this is kind of behind the scenes. This is just what I'm putting together. I think Sally at the last minute was like, hey, he's my brother. And then Jerry and Sally didn't really seem like a couple. But as we go later, when Sally's like, well, I'm not leaving until we find Jerry, it makes me think, well, maybe they're a couple. I don't know. But it got to this point where it's like, why would you bring Franklin along on a road trip? Franklin just was not going to have fun. And Franklin expressed it from, like, out of the gate. Like, he's just like, this sucks. There's 2 guys, 2 girls, and Franklin. See the 5th wheel? I passed this before. I think it was the 7th wheel. But, like, what was Franklin supposed to do? Say, hey, which one of you guys are going to push me around in my wheelchair? I don't know if he'd been in a wheelchair his whole life, because they are going to his grandparents' house, so it's like, well, I've been there before. I don't know. If I'd been somewhere before and I was in a wheelchair, then be like, hey, you want to go with us? We're going, but I'm in a wheelchair now. I would know if it was worth it or not. I'd be like, no. But you always like going. I know. I did when I could run, and I could walk freely, and I could grab stuff and reach everything. Now, no, fuck off. He was mad. Kirk hears a generator because they're out of gas. Oh, I didn't mention that. They after dropping off the hitchhiker, they stopped by the gas station because they were gonna gas up. Which is weird because it's not really weird, but it's convenient that they would plan to gas up in a time where there wouldn't be any gas, even though they had enough gas to get to where they were going. Because they did, but they're planning ahead, and nobody plans ahead in a horror movie unless they're building the story to go a wrong way. So they stop by a gas station. They meet the friendly attendant. It's an old guy. It's like, oh, yeah, we're out of gas. I was like, what? You're a gas station, you're out of gas? Like, yeah, because it's the oil crisis of 1973. It's like, though there will be some gas later if you want to stick around. And it's funny because the old guy is kind of, he's kind of the harbinger. This is a big chunk that I left out. He's kind of like the harbinger. And he's kind of like, here's the ultimate survival trip. If you're doing a road trip anywhere, as soon as you get anywhere near where you're going, if it's questionable, stop by the gas station. And if an old guy comes out and is like, no, you don't want to go there, believe every fucking word he's saying. Because the old guy's always fucking right. The old guy, anytime he alludes to something bad might happen if you do that, never think like, whatever, that's not going to happen to me. It will happen to you. It's going to happen to you. You are a few minutes away from that happening to you. In movie time, you're 5 minutes away. In real life, you're probably like. But they talked to him because he talked to him. He's like, where are you guys going? It's like, you can wait around. The gas guy's going to come. It's like he was giving them an out. He was like, the gas guy, he'll be here in just a few hours if you want to wait around here. Like, we got to go up there. He's like, all right. It's like, where are you going? They're like, oh, we're going to go look at this house. He's like, I don't know. You guys don't want to go mess around with some old house, do you? That's how people get hurt. And the people that, it's like, he gave all these warnings. And they're, no, we're going to go anyway. It's like, we want to get gas. Well, we'll just wait. We'll get on the way back. And he's like, are you sure? And it's like, and they got barbecue from him. I'm saying this because everything I just said comes into play later. And some of it is stuff that I never thought about before, like the barbecue. I was like, ooh, and I didn't realize they did that. Kirk hears the generator, and he's like, generator. I hear a generator. That means gas. That means they have gas. Maybe I can give him. There was a weird thing also where he's like, oh, they got gas. It's like maybe he's like, I can like leave. I can give him a couple bucks and leave my guitar and blah blah like as collateral, and then when we come back we can bring some gas. But it's like, wait, you guys went on a road. You don't have any money. It's like you're just like, hey, we're just gonna go on a road trip. I don't have any money. A full tank of gas. Oh, you're out of gas. So you had to know that your vehicle would run out of gas at some point, but. So Kirk goes, Pam follows. Pam's girl number 2. There's 2 girls. Sally and Pam are the 2 girls. And Pam goes with them. They find the generator. They don't see any people though. There's just a house. Because they're kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like the cemetery is where all the people were. And after they get past the cemetery, there's some people at the gas station. But after that, there's no people. And the houses are like so far apart. Kirk goes in the house. He knocks on the door. And he's like, hello. Hello. So he knocks. Nobody answers, so he checks the knob. And it's open, so he's like, hello. Hello, I'm just trying to find. It's like, dirt. And then he gets to the wrong door, and this is the first time we see Leatherface. And I think this movie's only like an hour and 23 minutes long. And it's done well in terms of like, we're a good 30 minutes in and we get the first kill and we see a glimpse of Leatherface where he like, the door opens and Leatherface is like, has like a mallet, like a meat tenderizer, so like clocks him. And the way that he gets hit is so, it's like the sound effect on is like, oh, that sounded like what it would sound like if somebody just hit somebody in the head with something. But the way that he drops and like his heels, like, because he's on his back, so his heels are like spasming and like click, 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 click on the floor. It's like, that's kind of disturbing because this movie is not, it's like, for as much of it has it's known for, like, okay, it's a slasher where a guy kills people with a chainsaw. For the most part, he doesn't kill them with a chainsaw. But you're expecting it to be gorier than it is, and this movie is not gory at all. It's just, it's done well. It's done to where, like, when he gets hit with that fucking hammer in his head, we don't need to see his head cave in. We don't need to see, it's like the reaction from the way he dropped, the sound it made is like, oh, Jesus. You're just like, oh, and then like, and it's already been set up like the desolation, like there's nothing else around. But then Pam's out front, and she's like, well, what's going on? And she's waiting, she's like, Kirk, where are you? Blah, blah. And so she wanders in. And then she meets Leatherface. And he grabs her and he puts her on a meat hook. And even then, it's like the way they show the meat hook, where it's like, oh, there's a hook. And then it shows us, like, we can see the hooks there. We can see he's grabbing her and he lifts her up. Not graphic, but the reaction. Because, like, you know what happened. You didn't need to see, like, they didn't have to change angles and be like, here's where the hook actually goes to the body, and now it's going to poke out in the front, just to show how meat hooked she got. So, like, the way everything's done in this movie is so great, because it's, like, minimal, like, budget-wise and everything, but it's, like, it's telling a story. It's not really trying to gross you out, but it grosses you out by how minimal it is, where it's like, oh, and it does kind of have this feel to where it's like, this is a true story, this really happened. Like, for the time period, because I saw this once again, junior year, first time I ever actually saw Chainsaw Massacre. This, because found footage films didn't exist yet, this felt like a found footage where it's like, is this a reenactment? Because it's too bad to be an actual movie, but it's too good to be a found footage. So it's like, did this really happen? And you can suspend all beliefs and put yourself in there where you're just like, this sucks. And now we got 2 people dead. So Jerry goes over and he's like, hello. Jerry goes inside and he starts like snooping around. There's like bones, like taxidermy. A lot of it's like taxidermy shit, but there's also a lot of like, I don't know. It's like they have an actual farm going on. They have like a barn inside their house because you can hear like pig sounds and chickens. And I was like, what is going on? But you don't really see them. Then you open a door and it's like, oh, that's a chicken. You hear the sound coming from the freezer, you know, to kind of the wide, you know, like a meat freezer that you can open the top. You know, that if you're my age, everybody's grandparents had one of those in the garage. Because you keep meeting them and you can hear it. And he opens it and there's Pam's inside. He's like, what the fuck? And she's like, it's weird because she's like, frozen. It's like, well, you were kicking a second ago. Then I open it and you're just like, oh, it's Pam's corpse. And then she's like, not my corpse. It's like, well, why'd you stop moving? You should have been like, you should. So he sees Pam and he's like, okay, something's up here. And then he hears a noise and Leatherface comes out, smell it, and he's like, okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So far we got 3 corpses, no chainsaw. Although there was a chainsaw earlier when, that was how Leatherface carved up good old Kirk. And there's kind of a thing, it's like the first slasher movie. And I don't know, I've always been big on, like, who did it first? You know, whether it's music, movies, like, anything creative, I'm kind of curious, like, well, who did it first? It's like, because I want to give props where props are deserved. I was like, it's like, these guys do this really awesome. It's like, yeah, but they didn't invent it. It's like, when somebody covers a song, they're probably going to do it better than the original. But the guy who did the original deserves a lot of credit. Because that person created something. You just ran with his idea. And with Chainsaw Massacre, it's kind of, to me, it's not a slasher film. Because Leatherface is the victim. Which sounds weird. It's a weird thing. This is part of the movie. Because after he kills Jerry, he stops and he sulks and he gets confused and he's just like doesn't know what to do, and then he like kind of just sulks about it, and he puts himself in a position where you kind of feel bad for him, but you don't feel bad for him yet. I might be saying this too early, because when the dad gets involved is when it gets more like obvious. But at the same time, it's weird because Jason was a victim. Jason was like a little kid. Jason was a special needs kid who should not have been allowed to be near the lake by himself. He couldn't swim. He would need saved. Yet, I've never felt like sympathy toward Jason. Because Jason's always been like, even though the first movie explains the hell out of Jason, Jason's just always been so iconic that it's like, he's an asshole. Sally and Franklin, now they're alone. They don't realize it, but they're the last survivors. They don't know other people are dead. But now it's nighttime. You know, the van, they have the lights on in the van. And at this point, and they're like honking, drawing attention. It's like, at this point, it's like, dude, turn the lights off, stop honking, and lock the door. Stay in the van. Get in the fucking van and shut the fuck up. Because they're like, we're lost and blah, blah, blah. And if they're like trying to get the others to come back by it's like, we're here. But it's like, because they're probably not lost because they didn't go very far. The radius of where they were is not that big. So, they probably didn't, but they'll find the fucking van. Shut up and get in it. And just don't bring attention to yourselves. But then, like, Franklin and Sally get in this fight. Because Sally's annoyed, or grumpy, and I don't hold this against Sally at all, because Sally's like, I mean, she's got to deal with Franklin's kind of a whiny bitch. It's like, it's her brother, and he's handicapped, and she's responsible, and anything he needs, she has to go get. But now she's in a situation where it's like, now she's kind of handicapped too, because like, I'm going to run over there and go find him, but she can't just have him wait there. and she's not strong enough to take him with her. And she's like, I want to go. And then they fight over the flashlight. And so it's like, all right, we'll go together. But like, she wants to cover ground and she can't because she's slowed down by him. But then suddenly, Leatherface pops out of nowhere, and we hear the chainsaw. It goes right into Franklin. Franklin's done. Sally bolts. Franklin's killed in front of Sally, luckily for Sally, so she doesn't have to worry about Franklin anymore. She can go. She runs. She's like, I'm not worried about if he's alive or not. I'm getting the fuck out of here. Sally runs as far as possible. The chainsaw, she can hear it. It never gets further in the distance. If anything, it gets closer. And she runs and she runs and she tries to go. She has to run it for a while, and then she finds a house. But the house she finds is Leatherface's house. She goes in. He chases her around in there. She goes up to the second floor, which is a big no-no. Never run up. You go up, then you're stuck up. And she found out the hard way. She had to jump out the fucking window. Which bought her a little, well, she got fucked up and cut by glass. But Leatherface had to run back down, so it gave her a little bit of a head start. Funny thing when you're watching these chase movies, especially this one, because Leatherface at this point, he's not like Jason where he can just disappear and then you're like, oh, I think I lost him. And you turn around, he's right there. Like, he's really running after you. And he's a really big guy. And he's really overweight. So, like, when you're a teenager watching this, like, I can run forever. And that guy can run after me. But as an adult, it's kind of like, there's no way Leatherface has enough cardio. Like, what do you think Leatherface is doing when he's not, like, killing people? You think he's down at the track doing laps? Like, you think he's doing stair climbers? You think he's, like, he's doing fucking insanity workouts to try and, like, stay in shape to say, oh, there might be more kids coming. Also, how is he so big? It's like, you're eating people. How many people are going through there? Maybe that's why there's not that many people in the vicinity. He's chasing after her, and he's keeping up with her, no problem. And it's like, I'm carrying this, I'm running. It's like, it's not the first time I've ran with a chainsaw, bitch. So he chases her. She loses him. She gets back to the gas station, which seemed like kind of a drive. It seemed like when they were at the gas station, then they drove to the house. Especially because they were planning to get gas at that gas station. It seemed kind of like, well, that means the house must be kind of a ways from here. Otherwise, you wouldn't care. And, like, waiting for it. But the fact she just ran there. And the fact that Leatherface's fat ass kept up with her until she got there. And then okay, I think she lost him. Then she sees the old guy, the harbinger, who's like, oh, look who's back. Oh, hey. It's like, oh, you're okay. She's like, oh, she's trying to explain. He's like, oh, you're okay. That's crazy. That didn't happen. Just talk her out of it. It's like, all right, well, we can get in my truck. And then he starts seeming kind of weird. And then he pulls out, like, this knapsack for her to get into. And she's like, what? Huh? And she finds out that he's in on it. Because that's Leatherface's dad. And he starts poking her with a stick, and he captures her, and he takes her back to the house. And then she sees the hitchhiker's there. A hitchhiker is in on it too. That's the brother, the Leatherface's brother. They get back, and they're like, what? You left Leatherface alone? You're not supposed to leave him alone. They actually call him Leatherface. It's like, you left your brother alone? And then they plan this dinner. And it's the dinner scene the dinner scene is like pretty cool. It's been done in so many movies since, where it's like, this is just, which is kind of funny because like almost every Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel ends up going back to this and becoming the first one all over again. And it's ironic because, like, the remake doesn't. The remake is the first Chainsaw Massacre movie that doesn't try and recreate the dinner scene. I was like, that's weird. It's ironic that the remake happens to be, like, the most different of all the Chainsaw Massacre movies. And that includes the ones that were made after the remake, because they keep making them. I think there's another one coming out soon. As much as I enjoy watching them, it sucks because, like, the first one was good. The cinematography was fucking great. The scenes, the fact that it wasn't gore for the sake of gore. There was no gore. There was no blood. There was just like, it was real. And when she wakes up and she thinks she's awoken from a nightmare, she opens her eyes and looks at the dinner table and all those freaks are around her. And she's like, you get that panic. Like, you feel that claustrophobic feeling of like, oh man, that would suck. She's on the upper, why the dining room's on the top floor, I don't know. It's almost like they're having a dinner in the attic. But she like freaks out and you're just like, oh, god damn, that would suck. But you feel it feels real. And then they get Grandpa, because Grandpa's the old pro from the slaughterhouse. He used to slaughter cows. They get him in the, you know, the tenderizer, give him some swings, and he tries to hit her. But the way that they do it, where he actually hits her, where it just kind of like drops on her head, that sound, like the sound effects of this movie are so right on, where you're just like, oh, just makes it more real, because they're not over the top at all. They're just like, they're just enough where it's like, Jesus, I could feel what that hammer would feel like on my head. Fuck. But Grandpa's taking so long to do it that she kind of, she breaks free, and she, actually, no, it's not on the second floor, because she jumps out of another window. And it's pretty much ground level, but still, you know, it's 3 feet on the ground. It's a jump. But she gets out and then she runs, and then, you know, the hitchhiker's right after her. Leatherface fires the chainsaw. He's after her. A big semi comes by and she like flags it down. And the guy gets out and he's like, "You need help?" And he sees them. And he's like, "Oh shit!" And he bites her in. And they do a weird thing, because like, a semi's high enough that like you can't just get a chainsaw and do anything. And you can't like, it's a weird thing. Like, he pushes her out the other side though. It's like, oh, let's go. And they're planning to like run around the semi truck until somebody gets tired. But he grabs his like lug nut wrench, and when Leatherface gets close, he throws it. Oh no, I left that apart. Because the semi, that's why the semi stopped. Semi stops because it hit the hitchhiker. It didn't hit him. It ran his ass clean over. The semi runs the hitchhiker over. He's completely under the tire, dead as shit. And then Leatherface comes, and the semi truck driver stops and gets out, because he's like, oh shit, I just ran somebody over, and this girl's covered in blood. What the fuck is going on here? And then Leatherface shows up with his chainsaw, and he's like, oh shit. And then they start playing this game of like, well, let's run around the trailer and truck until somebody gets tired. But then he's got a lug wrench, and he throws it and cacks Leatherface in the face and drops him. And Leatherface falls, and his chainsaw, like the blade lands in his thigh, and he's like, ah! The way he screams is funny. It's like the most human thing Leatherface has ever done. It's almost like the Tom and Jerry yell. It's like, ah! Then he gets up and he's limping after them. Sally at this point has no loyalty. She's like, I want to get the fuck out of here. Another pickup comes. She flags it down. She's like, hey, stop, wait. And the pickup's like, what the? And it stops and kind of skids out. And Leatherface is getting close. And the guy drives like, all right, you got until if this guy gets close to me, I'm driving away. Either you're in or you're out. You got 10 seconds. And she runs in. She jumps in the back and he takes off. And Leatherface is in the distance, getting smaller and smaller. And she wins. She escaped. And Leatherface starts doing his little chainsaw dance thing. It's not a celebration. It's almost like a frustration thing. Because what do you do with a chainsaw when you're on a road? And I guess I have a weird thing with Leatherface, because he's the first, like, he's not an anti-hero, but there's something about him being a victim. It's like the way his dad treats him, the way his brother teaches him. It's like Leatherface, that's what it is. Leatherface was born into it. Leatherface never had a chance. Michael Myers' parents are good people, and Michael Myers just killed people. And Jason's like, I don't know. I'm assuming, based on how mad that his mom got, she was probably a decent mom. Even though she worked at the camp, so he drowned out. But that's sad at this point. And Pinhead was never a kid. And Freddy, you know, he came back for revenge. Freddy was just a bad guy to the bone. Like, people killed him because he was fucking with their kids, and then Freddy's like, oh, I found a way to come back. Now I'm gonna fuck with your kids. But Leatherface was just kind of this big fucking, big victim, big special needs guy that just didn't know any better. That's why I don't quite think of him as a slasher. I think of him as he's a victim, and he just doesn't know any better. And when people get near him, he just kind of like, this is what I know to do. And that's why that scene after he killed Jerry, when he like kind of gets by the window, he's like, and then when his dad comes home, he's like, look what your brother did to the door. And they kind of chase him around. Because you're like, well, if you're this big bad killer, then why are these people telling you what to do? It's like, he's not. He's just this big bag victim. It's like, this is the life that Leatherface was given. And I have a soft spot in my heart for Leatherface. Leave Leatherface alone, okay? The Badass Award goes to the truck driver, not Sally. Sally didn't do anything. I mean, granted, yes, she is the final girl, but she didn't do anything. All she did was run. She didn't kill anybody. She didn't even hurt anybody. She hurt a lot of windows that she jumped through. The truck driver ran over Leatherface's brother, hit Leatherface in the head with a lug wrench, making him fall and causing him to chainsaw his own leg. That guy's a hero. What did we learn? Survival tips! Make sure to gas up as often as possible on long road trips. If a creepy old gas attendant gives you a warning, take it. Don't just walk into a stranger's house. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre took my baby away from me. Texas Chainsaw Massacre took my baby away.